You're now listening to episode 117 from the Shed End, the two Theos. How you doing, Theo? How you doing?
Yeah, all good. I passed my driving test this morning, so in a very good mood, very smiley, and hoping to be able to celebrate once again on Sunday, if everything goes well for Chelsea. But even if it doesn't, I'll make sure to have a couple of pints at Box Park
Yeah,
before the game to celebrate. But yeah, in a very good mood this weekend, going this Friday, going into the weekend. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a good positive week. Um, the usual. Another week of non Chelsea related stuff ruining my week. So yeah, it's been good. Been a good week so far. Got the final to look forward to on Sunday, which we're going to talk about and focus on this episode. So before we do that, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. The shameless plug that I do every week. But if you haven't, please subscribe, like the videos. The Linktree link is in the description as well, so make sure you go to that link and hit it, and make sure you follow the social accounts and the Spotify account as well. And we do appreciate all of that. So, League Cup final, Liverpool, Sunday. I'm going to say it's a massive game. It is a big game for us in terms of what we've spoken about over the last couple of weeks. Going into this final, currently we obviously, as we're recording, Maurizio Pochettino's either just finished his press conference or still doing his press conference for the match. But a couple of early indicators that Thiago Silva, Benoit Badiashile, Carney Chukwuemeka possibly won't be in that squad to face Liverpool on Sunday. Late test for Silva and Badiashile. But just in terms of going into it, the form that we've picked up over the last couple of games, Crystal Palace, Man City, do you go into this game with the expectation that we should be able to deal with whatever Liverpool have to offer?
Yeah, so like I mentioned on the previous episode, I do feel like we've got a lot more momentum and confidence about us going into this game, especially when you consider that was it 3-4 weeks ago we lost back to back to Liverpool and Wolves, conceding four in each of one of those games.
Mm.
So I'm definitely a lot more optimistic and confident. Those three players you mentioned, I'm very doubtful that they'll even feature on the bench. They didn't feature against Man City, and we coped quite well against Man City without them. The one that I would love to see on the bench, and whether he's on a substitute or alongside the manager, is Thiago Silva. I'm not sure you saw, they posted a clip of him when he got injured in Porto on Instagram today, and how he was almost on the bench alongside Tuchel. You could see all the kind of the eventual emotions he went through. So I think it'll be quite a big occasion, a moment for him, and he'll want to feature somehow, whether that be from the bench, in the dressing room, from the stands, on the pitch. Um, but I think Chukwuemeka and Badiashile, I'm very doubtful that they'll feature. I'm a lot more optimistic. I'm a lot more confident. I am looking forward to it now. I think 3-4 weeks ago, I was dreading almost having to get to Wembley, see us lose to Liverpool, whether it be on penalties or in normal time.
Mm.
But I'm going to say I am getting more and more confident now. I feel like there's a bit of momentum and a bit more cohesion in the squad at the moment, especially in our midfield. We're finally seeing Enzo kind of seem like that player that we spent all that money on January last year.
Yeah.
Gallagher's looking, playing out of his skin. Jackson, Palmer, and Sterling, I thought the three of them were fantastic against Manchester City. So it's all about, we keep using this word, but all about that consistency and making sure those players replicate that form consistently now in these big games. And you did say it, big game, biggest game of the season. I will say it is our biggest game of the season. I think we mentioned at the quarter final against Newcastle mid-December time.
Mm.
I think we both agreed that that was probably our most important game of the season, and that
Yeah.
was a quarter final. And now we're in the final against a club that gave us so much heartbreak in 2022 and all, throughout the history and across the 21st century, if anything. But I'm just thinking back at 2022, back-to-back cup finals, League Cup February,
Mm.
FA Cup May, 0-0 penalties. We lost both those games on penalties. And I really don't want to be walking back to Wembley Park Station as I hear Liverpool celebrating in Wembley. I think what really fueled my hunger to win this game is, I think you sent it to me, is that little snippet of the what to expect from the match. I think it
Mm.
was Sky Sports, and they
Yeah.
called it the first stop of Klopp's farewell tour, I believe, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether Chelsea can spoil the celebrations, and it just felt like Liverpool already being branded as the media darlings. Sky Sports, TNT, BBC, ITV, whoever's broadcasting the game will want Liverpool to win it because we all know how much they love Liverpool and Klopp and his legacy there.
Mm.
So yeah, big game. But I'm going to say I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am. I am looking forward to it, and I agree with you. You know, I think even just then, you know, listening to the press conference from Maurizio Pochettino, and you know who are the favourites, and apparently Klopp's come out and said that Liverpool aren't the favourites, but you can almost see he's playing that down. But just in terms of what we need to do to go into this game, for me personally, I think we just need to keep that consistency that we've had against Manchester City, against Crystal Palace. You know, okay, we had a banana skin moment against Wolves, but I think even, you know, those two games just back to back, you've seen a lot of consistencies. You've seen a lot of, yeah, like you said, you know, the cohesion from the squad as well. You know, Enzo chipping in with goals. I think back to back, Gallagher the same. You know, really good link up in terms of how they're playing together. Nicholas Jackson, who I think has come out, I think over the last couple of days. I think it was yesterday, and said that, you know, he's understood that he hasn't been the best of, you know, he hasn't had the best starts to his Chelsea career. You know, he's listened to the criticism, he's took it on board. You know, he's fueled him to do better for the club, which is a good thing. You know, I think when a player's not doing well, we are in our rights to criticise him, or his form at least anyway. And for him then to improve and show us that we are wrong. So I think if he's been able to do that, which is, we have to be honest, you know, the games that he's played since he's come back from the African Cup of Nations, he's done that. You know, he's proven to us that there is a player in there, whether it's a striker, whether it's off the left side of the attack, whichever. But he's doing something right. Um, Penalties, a big thing. I think Maurizio Pochettino was just asked about this in his press conference. Apparently, the team have been practicing on penalties throughout, you know, the tournament and throughout the season. So um, I'm kind of confident if we go into penalties that we have enough penalty takers. For me, I think that I would feel confident in going up and taking a shot. How would you feel if it did go through to penalties, and possibly who would those penalty takers be if we had to line up and pick five of them?
Yeah, I'm just remembering back to that 2022 Carabao Cup final. I think it was 12 or penalties in a row, and then or 11, and Kepa missed the 11th
Yeah,
one. Then you even had players like Silva and Chalobah taking theirs and scoring.
yeah,
But yeah, should it go to penalties on Sunday? I'm thinking back to that Newcastle game, which went to penalties,
yeah,
and which
exactly.
players took penalties there. I'm remembering Nkuku taking a brilliant penalty.
Yeah,
I think even Mudryk might have scored his. And you're thinking those are the type of players that may come off the bench
yeah,
and be there for the penalty shootout, whereas maybe a Sterling or a Caicedo, even possibly a Gallagher, might not play the full 120 minutes.
mm,
Um, but I think whether that be Levi Colwell, whether that be Nkuku, whether that be, I'm trying to think who else, Cassidy even. Actually, sorry, Cassiday's cup tied for
yeah.
this.
You're right on that one. Less. Yeah, yeah,
Mudryk, whichever player it's going to be, even if it's a fullback, Gusto, they're going to have to be practicing penalties at Cobham throughout the day. Because, like you said, I think the fact Pochettino is almost foreseeing it and planning for it, there's a high chance that it happens.
mm,
Um, Especially given the kind of history with the ties between Liverpool that we've had in the past. But I think the main ones I'd like to see take penalties, Palmer, obviously, but I think
yeah,
there's a high chance he comes off. And Cuckoo being my second logical choice. I think the midfielders, Enzo, Caicedo, and Gallagher, I think two of those three are likely to play the 120 minutes.
mm,
Um, then your centre backs as well. You're going to
mm,
have to, I always say, I think it was Rudiger or Silva who took one and he just smashed it in the middle. I think it was in the against Villarreal, I believe, in the Super Cup final,
yeah.
and he just smashed it down the middle.
Just put his
You
foot
look back
through.
at David Luiz Champions League final. That's what you want to see from a centre
Mm,
back, having a confidence and the power to just blast it in.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a high chance to go to penalties, and I hope whoever's going to step up is ready to take one.
Yeah, I think if even if it goes through to penalties, like I said, you know, I am very confident that we can at least put up a good performance in terms of how we, you know, we take our penalties. Also, on the flip side of that as well, I think we have to remember, you know, the goalkeeper's just as important when it comes to a penalty
Mm.
shootout. And you know, Petrovic again, you know, so now I am very confident with, in terms of his goalkeeping so far, and I think I've said it over the last couple of weeks now. I'm very confident in how he commands himself in that goal. You'd expect Kelleher, I think, for Liverpool to be in goal. They don't tend to, you know, throw Allison in. I think he's hoping to be back, but I think they'll stick with Kelleher as they have done throughout the whole of the Carabao Cup. Um, Obviously, they've got injuries as well, Liverpool, but it's only been highlighted now as an injury crisis because it's Liverpool. You know, we've been suffering with these injuries throughout the whole of the season. But watching Liverpool on Wednesday against Luton was very strange because the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, Luton were doing okay, and then they just collapsed. And then you got to see, even this is without Trent, without Robertson, without Mo Salah, without Slobosly, without Diego Jota, they still looked very threatening going forward. You know, on the counter attack with Diaz, Gapco, Harvey Elliott as well in that team. Obviously, they didn't have Curtis Jones again as well, but is this probably the best time for us with those injuries? Hopefully, I think there's a late fitness test for Slobosly, Mo Salah, and Allison. I think, but if I mean, this seems like the best opportunity for us really to take on a Liverpool team, albeit with the injuries. But you know, we got to take the game to them, surely.
Of course, yeah. I think it's 9 injuries they have in total, or 9 players that are either a doubt or ruled out of this game on Sunday. And there's some big players, players that will start or would have likely to feature. I think Thiago Alcantara, another one.
Yeah.
Trent, like you mentioned, Jota, Allison, Szoboszlai. I think it's Curtis Jones who got injured against was it Brentford, I
Brentford,
believe.
yeah, Brentford.
Um, but then again, Liverpool just seemed like you said against Luton. They dealt with the injuries and the voids those players left, and they have the depth to fill those gaps in the squad. Bradley Jones, is that his name? No,
Uh, Connor
Connor
Bradley.
Connor Bradley.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, fantastic player. Luis Diaz. Even if Salah doesn't play and Luis Diaz features, he's a brilliant player. Nunez, I'm not sure if he's fit yet.
Sorry, he's the late fitness. He's
Yeah,
Nunez is another one. Yep.
yeah, as inconsistent as he's been, I think he's a brilliant player.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He's a really good. So yeah, of course it's going to be good for us because you rather play a depleted Liverpool team with injuries than one that's got all those players in the first 11 or able to come off the bench. But we have to also remember we've been struggling with injuries as well.
yeah.
I still want to consider Nkuku as fully fit and raring to go. We've got no Chukwuemeka. We haven't got our first choice goalkeeper who was out at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Our captain, I still call him our captain, Thiago Silva.
I thought you
We
meant
don't have our.
Reece. I thought you meant Reece James.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm Reece James. Yeah, I just remembered Reece James as well.
Yeah,
Our captain and our maybe third choice or fourth choice captain in Thiago Silva.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, we've got our own mini injury crisis as well.
Hmm.
But of course, I'd rather play this depleted Liverpool team than a one that's got all of its star players.
Yeah, I mean they're still frightening. I mean, you still have to look at, as I said, you know, you look at how they played. You know, there's still a threat from the box from set pieces with Van Dijk. Kanate didn't start in midweek, so you'd assume he'll be partnering possibly Van Dijk on Sunday. Gomez probably at left back. Robertson came on, but I don't think he'll probably start. I don't know. If you, as you mentioned, you know, Connor Bradley, it'd be a big game for him. You know, I mean, it's a big game going. I mean, it's all well and good you're playing against a team at Anfield, you know, but when you go to Liverpool to Wembley, yes, you've got Liverpool fans there, but again, you know, cup final, 90,000 people. It's going to be a bit of a different. We'll see how good of a player he is. I think, you know, if he can keep hold of whoever it is, if it's Jackson or Sterling that plays on the left for us, if he can keep them tamed and quiet. But I want to talk about the possibility of, obviously we've spoken about on here before, but if we do win the Carabao Cup, there's an opportunity potentially for us to then obviously qualify for the Europa League Conference or Conference League. I was reading, I found the article, but I found on the Athletic around if we do go into the Conference League, then obviously that then implicates a lot more challenges for Chelsea in terms of FFP, in terms of the at the moment we're only currently I believe we're only currently having to sort of stick to the guidelines of the Premier League's PSR. Now if we go into the Conference League, we also have to ensure that we're meeting the regulations or the requirements of UEFA, which is a totally different obviously governing body. I think I read earlier as well that obviously we won't earn as much from this as well because of due to the fact one it's a Conference League football, but also because of the fact that we currently the bonuses that we have with the players as well. So that's another factor that we have to bring into this if they go into. Ultimately, I think if we're not in European football, it's brilliant for the club. But as fans, you know, you want to be seeing your club win trophies and going on to win bigger things. So what's your thoughts on that? Because I think AC Milan did something very similar a couple of seasons ago where they gave up their opportunity to compete into the European competition due to the fact that they'd breached FFP a number of times. And obviously that would have then caused a ripple of effect of things going forward for them. So is there an argument to say that if we do get the opportunity to go into the Conference League, we shouldn't probably accept that invitation?
I mean, of course, if we're trying to be compliant with financial regulations, and in the long term it's going to backfire, and we're going to be penalised by it somehow, then I rather we don't feature.
Mm.
But from a fan perspective, I'd love to be able to see our team back in Europe, even if it's on a Thursday night against teams that are not as good of a quality as the Champions League or Europa League ones. But I still think that would be a massive experience, and for those young players that
Yeah.
that are in our squad now, you think of the likes of a Badger Shil, a Malagusto, a Casadai, these type of players would have never played European football before, so it'd be a huge experience for them and a learning curve for
Mm.
all of those youngsters. Even players like Mudryk, who's not featuring as regularly at the moment. If we have a midweek fixture, we'd be able to rotate, and those players would be able to gain more experience. So I'm quite on the fence on this one. Of course, I rather would be compliant.
Mm.
I don't want us to be penalised should we, by miracle, somehow end up in the Champions League in 2-3 years and then somehow be penalised and get a points deduction, or we have to pay a massive fine. Then I'd rather not. But yeah, it'll be interesting, and hopefully there's a way for us to get around it.
Yeah, I'm just reading here as well. So obviously the even down to like the costing of the travel for players, the players' bonuses, all that will come to a cost, which will then obviously add on to the spends, which will then reduce what the total amount of revenue will come from playing in that tournament. So we've kind of already had glimpses of what the owners' intentions are in terms of trying to make profit where they can at this club. I agree with you 100%, and I think I said it on a separate podcast throughout this week that I think some of these players, I think even like a Cole Palmer, who we kind of say at the moment is our best player, which he is, or one of the best players, Conor Gallagher, that's a trophy they can actually go out realistically and win very comfortably as well. Installs a lot of confidence in the players, in the team, in the manager, in the fans as well. The belief that whatever Pochettino's trying to do and install into this team, it's working. And I think if we can't, it's a shame that I get why you've got restrictions, financial restrictions, but it's a shame that those things are hanging heavy across a decision whether you go into a European competition or not. Because I think there should be no reason why you wouldn't want to go and win a competition, whether it's the League Cup, whether it's the Conference League, whether it's the Champions League. They're all the same thing. You get to the final, you want to win it. So it is a shame. I hope it doesn't come to the fact that we don't enter it, because I think, as I said, and this is no disrespect to some of the other teams that will be possibly in there, but it's a trophy that you can win realistically. I think you look at some of the teams that I think West Ham came up against. They were quite difficult, respected clubs, but they still went on and won it, and they done it very well. They didn't look very shaken by the fact that they were coming up against some of these teams, and that we've got more experience in Europe than they have as well. So in recent times, anyway. So I think it's a tournament we should be definitely trying to go into, more so for the youngsters, like you said. The lack of experience we've got in the squad. I think that'd be brilliant for them to go there to win that Conference League. I mean, getting ahead of myself, but got to win the Carabao Cup first. But to get into the Conference League would be, for me, would be a bonus.
Definitely, and it's still to be seen what are the kind of goals and objectives are during this Bowley era. But in the Abramovich era, the 2 times we dropped into the Europa League, we won it twice.
Yeah.
So we did take this tournament seriously, and I think should we enter it next season or in the years to come, I think it's a tournament we should take seriously. From a fan perspective, there's some amazing travel opportunities and games to be able to watch. Sure, be it in maybe less destinations you'd expect, you wouldn't expect as much perhaps, but yeah, look, it'll be great experience for those young players, like I mentioned, um, and yeah, hopefully we can kind of sort something out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Todd Bowley, Egbadali. So I just butchered his name, but I'm not going to keep it in. Um, are going to be in attendance on Sunday, which is, I think, probably one of the first games they've been to in a while, I believe. I don't know. Have they been attending Stamford Bridge? If they have, it's been very low key. But just in terms of Sunday, in terms of the lineup, in terms of the preparation that we've been getting to see over the last couple of days, and I think you said this earlier, that you'd possibly stick with the same 11 that you had against Manchester City, which is a fair shout. Just give your reasons and your rationale behind that, why you would stick with your same 11.
A part of me says I want to stick with that 11 because it's worked so well in our last two fixtures, and you don't really change something that works well usually. And then a small part of me also thinks maybe if we tinker a little with it, it might take Klopp by surprise, and he might not expect that game plan.
Mm,
For instance, if we play in Cuckoo from the start, if maybe we throw in a Chalobah or even a player like that, for instance, it could maybe take him by surprise. I also think we need to almost plan this game like we're going to play 120 minutes of football.
yeah.
Also, so that's why players like Nkuku, Mudryk, they'd be good options off the bench. But yeah, I'm still very, very 50-50 in terms of I think this is one change we'd have in my lineup to yours.
Mm,
My lineup's identical to the one that featured against City, and I think yours has Christopher Nkuku in for Nicholas Jackson, which
yeah.
I'm not against at all actually, and I feel like I want to see more of Nkuku. But the one thing that kind of makes me not want to see him in that number 9 position is I think he played there against Wolves in the first half, and he hardly touched the ball. He looks
Mm,
so isolated. Whereas Palmer as the 9 and Jackson on the wing seems to work well. They linked up really well against Villa, Palace, and then against City at the Etihad last Saturday. So yeah, I don't think that's worked so well.
mm. Yeah, I'm just looking at your lineup here now. So, for those that haven't listened to the last episode, so you had Petrovic in goal, Malo Gusto, Axel Dizazi, Levi Colwell, Ben Chilwell as your back line, with the midfield of Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, Conor Gallagher in midfield, with Nicholas Jackson on the left of the attack, Raheem Sterling on the right, and Cole Palmer as the nine, the striker. Very good lineup, and I agree with you 100%. It has worked, the last couple of times. And one of the things I've been screaming for I think since Graham Potter was here, was consistency in a squad, and knowing your best 11, or
Mm.
your available 11 that is the best of your ability at the time. That is it for me. I do get that, and I've always said I want to have an option in our attack. One of the things that, if when you look back at the City game, was when we took off Jackson, and I think we brought on Kunku, we took off Cole Palmer. Then obviously City go on and score that goal. It just gave no option for us up attack. We had five at the back with Chalobah coming on. It just left everything defensive for us. Was I mean, we should have been able to see the game out because we went five at the back, but we didn't. But when we were going forward, we didn't have anything. And Liverpool will get their chances. We have to expect them to get. Diaz had about 4 or 5 chances against Luton and only scored one. But they will get chances. We have to be. I wouldn't tinker with the back line at all. I wouldn't put Trevor Chalobah or anything in there. I think I would leave that back line as it is. Question for you though. I mean, this is one of the things where, and I think we spoke about this last week actually, but we were saying about Thiago Silva, and if he's in the team, his expertise in a final is his last opportunity to get some silverware with Chelsea, or one. Well, it will be his last opportunity to get silverware with Chelsea, if he does depart in the summer. I feel like we should maybe keep Silva on the bench, especially if he's not fully fit. And also, I think he's a better option than Trevor Chalobah. I'm not saying that he's not good at what he does, but to see a game out, I think Silva would give you a
Mm.
bit more experience doing that. Do you agree with that, or would you possibly look at maybe, with the experience that he comes with, still technically a world class defender, up against a Diaz or a Gapco, Nunez? Would you put Silva in that lineup, or would you leave it as it is?
I think I'd agree with what you first said. I would leave it as it is and maybe bring him on should we be winning 1-0, 2-1, or taking the game into extra time and we're needing to defend that lead. And I think his experience and expertise will be really valuable there. But I wouldn't start him from the start. And the fact I don't think he's featured in any of the training pictures this week.
No, no.
But I also would rather maybe have half fit Silver come on than fully fit Chalobah, perhaps, just
Yeah.
for that kind of experience and leadership side of his game. So yeah, I'd like to see him feature in some capacity on Sunday, but not immediately in the starting 11.
Yeah, definitely. I've gone for, as you said, something very similar. I think the same lineup, but I've swapped. I've got Sterling on the left, Palmer on the right of my attack, with Nkunku down the middle of that. And my reason for that is purely because I think if we're going to win this game, we're going to have to outscore Liverpool. And I know that sounds so basic and stupid, but I think we have to be able to get that first goal, I'm not saying that Jackson and Palmer and Sterling can't do that, but I think we've got Nkunku in this team for that reason. That's why we brought him into the squad. That's why we wanted him to come to the club. We've got to give him the opportunity, and what better place to do that on a big stage at Wembley, to try and get a trophy for us as well. I think for me, he would start. And I like the fact that Jackson potentially coming off, if it is 1-0 to Liverpool or it's 1-1, I like the idea that we've got Jackson that we could probably throw on and change things for us a lot more than I think Nkunku coming on and Jackson going off would do for us, if that makes sense as well. I think he would offer a bit
Mm.
more, especially off that wing as well, off the left wing. So um, I, that's my reasoning for that. I think just on the midfield before we wrap up as well. So I think our midfield is very suited to how Liverpool might stack up with their midfield, with the injuries as well. Um, they are quite weak in that department. And obviously Endo for them has come on. He's come on leaps and bounds since he signed for the club. But I still think our midfield is evenly, if not better, matched than Liverpool's. Would you agree with that, or do you feel that? I feel that's where the game's going to be won. I suppose is what I'm saying. I think that is
Yeah.
literally where it's going to be won for me. So, do you feel like our midfield is ready to compete with Liverpool's?
I think you put the words in my mouth. I was about to say the game will be won in midfield. And I think we've got the quality now. Like I mentioned, Enzo is really showing his true colours now and proving to be that player we really wants to bring and made so much effort to bring from Benfica. Caicedo slowly getting into it as well. And Gallagher has been fantastic. And you mentioned Endo, I think Harvey Elliott, Gravenbach, and McAllister, I think, are the only full fit Liverpool midfielders. And on paper, I would say that ours are better than that. But Klopp does have this kind of ability to get the best out of players like Endo, who didn't come with a big price tag from Stuttgart. So yeah, it's going to be a tough battle in midfield, but I think we should have the hopefully enough to edge it.
And the only thing I will say on that is we need to make sure we leave the pitch with 11 men. I think if we
True
I think
discipline,
I
yeah.
think that midfield, yeah, discipline is key on Sunday because I feel there is going to be an element of pressure, passion between both clubs, and I feel that midfield. I mean, we know what Conor Gallagher can be like. I praised him last week, but we know what he can be like. We know what Enzo and Caicedo can be like as well. Malo Gusto has been there before in terms of his challenges. I think he got a red card against Villa, although it wasn't a red, but he's picked up those before. So I think we just got to be self discipline's key on Sunday. It really is. We haven't got Anthony Taylor there, which is good, which is really good. So we do have already our one hand on the trophy, so to speak, already.
Yeah. One last question, maybe before we do predictions: should it go to a penalty shootout? Petrovic or Sanchez in goal?
I would stick with I'd stick with Petrovic. I'd stick with him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I'm trying to think how many games has Sanchez missed now. It's probably got to be at least the last
It's
four
not,
weeks.
since that Everton game early December, he hasn't featured. That's when he got injured.
So
So it's been a good 2 months of football.
yeah, I wouldn't put him back in. I wouldn't even start him. I'd have him on the bench,
Yeah.
obviously. But I think Petrovic has earned his stripes to start, his stripes to stay in goal. I've never really been keen, and I know we did that. We did it in the Club World Cup, didn't we? I think, and we did it. We tried to do it, obviously, with Mitsio Sarri, with Kepa. But I'm not really keen on swapping my goalkeeper and coming in cold. 80 minutes, into extra time, and then changing it. I'm not keen on that. I don't. I'd rather a goalkeeper starts the game, ends the game. But it's just me. What about you? What would you do? Would you potentially bring in
Yeah.
Sanchez?
Oh, we're just recording this, and I just remember Sanchez's save against Bruno Fernandes's penalty at Old Trafford, and it did cross my mind. Um, I need to double check his record of penalties when he was at Brighton. But yeah, I think I'd stick with Petrovic. And it's a bit frustrating as a keeper as well. I know I've been kind of I've liked this idea in the past of bringing Kepa on as your special, like your penalty specialist, shot stopper. But it's also frustrating as a keeper. You've played 120 minutes. You've got your team to the penalty shootout to get subbed off. And keepers love penalty shootouts because they could only be the hero
Yeah,
in those occasions, unless you missed the penalty at the end, like Kepa last
I was gonna
2
say.
years ago. But yeah, no, I think I'll stick with Petrovic. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to our score predictions for the final. Um, as always, I'm gonna let you go first.
I think there'll be goals, unlike the 0-0s that we've had in the last two cup competitions against Liverpool. I'm going to go 1-1. extra time, extra time, penalties. I think Chelsea will win on penalties. That's my
Everyone's been
prediction.
saying that to me this week. It's so weird.
Yeah,
Everyone keeps saying penalties Chelsea, and I don't want it to go to penalties. I think I'd be more hurt if we lose on penalties against Liverpool again. And I think we've worked so hard to get to this stage based on how we've been this season as well. You know, no one's given us a chance at all to win this trophy. So I want us to go out there and prove that we don't even need the extra time or penalties to win this. My prediction will be 2-1 Chelsea. I've probably changed it about 4 times this week, but 2-1 Chelsea is what I'm going to stick with my final answer. Not going to go for goal scorers because I think it could be anyone. And in a final, he could be Petrovic in the 96th minute, who's come up for the last kick of the game. So, yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea. I think we'll be able to cope with them. And the last thing I will say is we've actually played really well against teams that you want to consider the big six or the top four, whatever. We've played okay against them, bar the Liverpool
yeah.
game.
But yeah, I was about to say bar the Liverpool game, City, Spurs, Arsenal,
Yeah,
bar the Old Trafford game maybe, but even
yeah,
the Brightons and Newcastle, I think we played well in
we've
those
done well.
games.
We've done well. So this time next week, we'll know who is the victorious out of the two teams. As always, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video. Go back and listen to the other videos and watch them as well. Theo, as always, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Wembley as well. You'll be there.
Cheers. Yeah.
Box Park, and then you'll be straight onto Wembley Stadium yourself. So I'm sure you'll be having some celebratory pints, not just because of the football, actually, because you're now an avid driver on the road. So enjoy. As always, guys, have a good weekend. Let's hope we win. Let's hope we get the trophy, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you very much for watching.